Usually I've been standing up here talking about the bowl game that we're going to, or playoff game or something of that nature. So this is a little bit different as we go through this and recap this past season. But you know, when you look at us, we go from a 12-1 football team last year, regular season, to 3-9 this year, and we've got to own that and got to move forward with that. So obviously I'm not over here too thrilled about even being here today, but here I am. Here I am. So when you want to recap the season, the first thing I'd look at is say, you know, the bar was set very, very high. It should be. That's what we've been able to accomplish. I've said before, we've won 40 out of the last 45 games coming into this season. So our goals were to repeat those type of things and be able to move forward. But why these things happen, why we were in the situation that we're in right now, it's a combination of a lot of things. I think we've talked about that throughout the season. So there's really no reason to really go through that, but I have them listed 1 through 15 if you care to ask that as we move forward. The basic thought process here, though, is that we'll restart this. We're using this time right now to basically identify our leaders on our football team. It's exam week, but we need to find the leaders on our football team, establish who they are, you know, look at our personnel, make sure our personnel is set in terms of what we need to continue to recruit, what we have coming back, things of that nature. Develop our chemistry, our attitude, our discipline, refocus on that aspect of it. Look at our scheme, what we're doing, self-scout ourselves, self-scout our opponents. Look at some of the things that we have dealt with this past season, what we can benefit from looking at, learn from, those type of things. And then move forward. So we are starting earlier than we normally start. Usually we start doing these type of things in February with a little bit more smiley faces around us. But here we are in December dealing with this. So it's part of the I guess you know, the process, which I'm always talking about the process, it seems, but part of the situation moving forward. We are where we're at. We've taken a step back. Now what's very important to me is that we put our foot in the ground and plant our feet in the ground and drive forward, and that's what we will do. So I'll take some questions and we'll go from there.
Mark, I know in the past when you've been out recruiting, we've talked about the buzz you feel out there after championships and things like that. In these last few weeks, what has been your sense of how guys have reacted from this season?
Well, you know, Michigan State still has a great name out there. There's a buzz out there when we walk in. People remember Rose Bowls. They remember Big Ten championships. We've won 2 out of the last 3. So there's a lot of positives that people can identify with in coming to Michigan State. You know, we have certain needs here, so there's no question that we'll recruit to those needs, and we've filled some of those needs already, and we'll continue to recruit probably, I don't know, 4, 5, 6, 7 more players as we move through this. You know, but we are having a great recruiting season, and you know, I'm very excited about the guys we have coming. We have a lot of visits yet to go.
Mark, you said there's a list of 15 things. Do you have that list, and can you share it with those the 15 things you've discovered in
you guys
this
don't
introspection?
Want to hear all these things?
Absolutely, we do.
Well, I can tell you a couple of them, I guess. As you go through through these things, I think that, you know, one thing that really sets you apart, do you win or do you lose, is turnover margin. I've said that before. You know, there are tangible things, there are intangible things. So you have to look at those aspects. Turnover margin usually allows you to win or lose or make up for deficiencies that you have. We've led the Big Ten in turnover margin the last 3 years previous, not this year. We ended up -5, I believe. So that's difficult, especially when you're not getting a bunch of turnovers. The lack of sacks. You know, usually when you sack, I think 1 out of every 6 sacks in the NFL results in a caused fumble. Certainly it makes it more difficult to move down the field. Sacks create pressure. It's not that we weren't there. We're there sometimes, but, you know, guys get out of sacks or whatever the situation. So, but the lack of sacks, the numbers, the raw numbers in that situation. That leads I believe, to big plays down the field defensively. Another tangible fact. If you have too much time or if you get out of trouble, usually if you get guys off the dime, in other words, off the area where they're passing from, their intended passing from area. You know, their percentages go down, way down. But if a quarterback creates and makes big plays down the field or whatever the case, you suffer in that area. Red zone scoring in the red zone offensively. Missed opportunities. We're kicking too many field goals, which has large play, and you know, we're leading in every football game that we played in, and inevitably when you look at them, you look at the Michigan game, too many missed opportunities in the red zone. You look at the Penn State game, too many opportunities missed in the red zone, scoring touchdowns and kicking field goals instead, or not getting anything out of them. But those are just two games. You look in the red zone at the two-point conversion against Ohio State, opportunity to at least go ahead in the game with 4:41 to go. But missed opportunities. I guess you've got to ask yourself, the intangible things are, did seniors have their best years? You have to have your best year as a senior if you're going to have a group of people moving forward to create great moments. So you got to ask yourself in those areas, did our seniors have their very, very best years? And you know, that's up and down, but every football team is usually a senior-led team. I point down the road and their seniors are having their best years of their careers, and you see the results of that. And that should be, that's a positive for them. You know, I don't think we ever stopped competing, but we didn't win the fourth quarter. That's a tangible aspect of it. In every football game, as I said, we were leading either at halftime or some point in the game, sometimes at the end of three quarters, but we didn't win the fourth quarter. So you've got to look at those things. But in the end, I think, you know, I know that's not probably 15, technique, leadership at the coaching level. It starts with me, but it trickles all the way down through our football program. And to be a leader, you got to be productive. I don't think there's any question about that as well. But when you look at techniques, when you look at certain schemes, you know, are you benefiting from the scheme that you're currently running, whether it's defensively, offensively, or special teams? Do you have to change things? All these things go into play when you're sitting here as we're sitting here, and that's why we need to take a very pragmatic approach to what's happened and recalculate where we're going and get there, and that's what we will do. I sort of feel like you're in a corner. There's no question about that. You got to make a play, and everybody's got to make a play. And I said this at our team dinner the other day. Whether you're involved in a relationship or looking for a new job or interviewing or getting a degree or passing a class or playing on the football field, you got to make a play. Got to believe in yourself, and you got to believe that you can make that play to rectify a problem or to create something positive, and that's what we're going to do. So, just a short question, long answer.
I know we talked after the Penn State game. You had mentioned didn't plan to make any staff changes. And wondered, is that still kind of the thought process right now? Were there any changes in responsibilities? And also, do you expect, outside of Malik, any more roster attrition?
Two-part, three-part question. I'm not sure. Okay, in terms of our staff, there'll be no changes made on my behalf on our staff. This is the same staff that won the Big Ten championship that everybody was celebrating last year. It's the same staff that won the Rose Bowl, basically. Same staff that went to the Cotton Bowl, that had record-setting numbers in 14, and et cetera, et cetera. It's all inclusive. Everything's all inclusive. Doesn't mean we fire players or anything like that because if they miss a tackle. So there'll be no changes in that area. What was the second question? Because I always get started on the one question. I can't remember.
Whether there be a staff juggling responsibilities, you made that determination yet?
No, there'll be no changes in terms of who's coaching what.
And do you anticipate any other roster attrition outside of Malik?
Absolutely, I do. I expect some attrition, but I can't go into specifics right now or names. But I do expect that. We're going to find out who wants to be here, and we're going to make sure that everybody's doing the correct things here. And if they're not, then there'll be some exits.
I have two, one at a time.
Okay, good.
You mentioned that the last time you met us, you made a remark that maybe we needed this. Can you elaborate on that? Who needed it? The players, the coaches, everybody?
I think anytime anything's ever going in the right direction at a very, very high level, there's always going to be at some point where you don't make that goal. At some point, there's a step back. Every program's had it across this country at some point or another. So when I took my 4.5-hour drive down to Cincinnati the Monday after the Penn State game, and I turned off the radio and I just drove by myself for 4.5, 5 hours, you know, I needed that time just to make sure that you know, I could sort of compartmentalize what's gone on from my perspective, what we need to do, and my mindset moving forward. And you know, when I got out of that car and I went to a place there, and then I went up the road for another two hours up to another area in Columbus, see my mother. That was another 2 hours of sitting there. Sorry, I didn't have the ringer off, guys.
That's your mother.
No, not my mom. So you know, you do a lot of reflecting. You do a lot of self, you know, thinking things through by yourself a little bit, and getting revitalized a little bit. So those are the things I did. But you know, do we want this to happen? No, we don't want this to happen. Do we need sometimes for these things to happen, to be able to pull the weeds, to be able to clear the crops, to be able to let the land lie dormant for 6 months to create growth? You probably do at some point. You know, I'm disappointed this happened during my time. Disappointing that it happened this year for our seniors and our entire football team. We had very high expectations. But again, I go back to it, you know, things hang on inches. They just do. If you look at the Wisconsin game and say these things don't happen, and all of a sudden we take the lead in the Wisconsin game and go up 14-13, you sort of wonder what the rest of the season looks like. So you have those moments in the season where you start to think, okay, if this wouldn't have happened, if this wouldn't happen. We had a tremendous amount of injuries, which is number one on my board here. A lot of injuries, a lot of different players, a lot of youth playing. You know, it's difficult. A lot of guys playing in and out of the lineups, you know, having 3 seniors and them not even being on the field in certain games. That's difficult. So you deal with all those things, but at the end of the day, you are what you are, and you got to own what you got. Just like stock. Sometimes you're gaining, sometimes you're losing, I guess.
Mark, is any of this embarrassing to you after all the success you've had to have to explain a 3-9 season and not being in the bowl game? Is there any embarrassment to this?
No, there's not. You know, I think we're all much harder on ourselves than the outside people are. It bothers me. It bothers me that I'm not over there working on bowl games. It bothers me that I'm not sitting up here talking about somebody that we're playing. You know, you go home at night during this week, and you're like, what am I doing home? That's how you feel. So, but I'm not embarrassed, because embarrassment would be, to me, that would be acknowledging that we didn't play hard or we didn't prepare. We prepared, we played hard, we competed. You know, we play a tough schedule. And if you look at our schedule, you got 4 teams playing in Big 6 games, I believe. Is that correct? So, you know, we play a tough schedule. Our side of the conference is tough. It's competitive. And I think we came to compete. And that's what I've always asked our players to do. Compete, play with toughness, play hard. And I think that we've done that. And I'll stand by my players, our players, and our coaches in terms of preparation and those type of things. But at the end of the day, you got to win too. You have to do that.
Mark, how big of a factor was your players' leadership group this year, and how did that group this year compare to years past?
Well, I think that you've got to have productivity as a leader. So as you go through this, you got your quarterback knocked out of the game, you know, with the foot, missed 2 games. You know, we had some changes in there, giving other people some opportunities. So it's tough, and he did an outstanding job in terms of leadership. You got our linebacker, Riley Bulla, who, is out for 3 weeks with a fractured scapula. And then he comes back and he plays his first game, and in the first quarter, give him a helmet-to-helmet shot. So he's out, basically 4 games. Those are tough situations. Both those guys raised up and led. Our senior group, guys are hurt in and out, throughout the entire time, and they've got to have their best years. So when you look at seniors to lead, in order to lead, sometimes you got to be extremely productive, and you got to worry about yourself and got to produce. And it's tough. When you lose a football game, it's tough on everybody. It's tough on our captains. It's tough on your senior leadership. They did a tremendous job. If you're at practice, every practice, they did a tremendous job in terms of basically practices were very competitive. They were very energetic. They had some fights. It's all good. But so we got ourselves ready to play, and our guys continued to work. But leadership is top down too. I have to walk in there every day too, and make sure that I'm doing the best job I can, as well as our coaches. So it's top down. So when you talk about leadership, you're talking about the head football coach too. So we did what we could do. At the end of the day, you got to win. But we had opportunities to win in a lot of games. We just didn't do it. I can't tell you how many times I walked in there and said, okay, hey, the fourth quarter, we got to do this, we got to do that.
You've had a lot of success over several years. So as you identify those 15 things, how hard is it to know what to tweak, what to change? I mean, your system has been working, so how do you make the decisions on how you move forward?
I think that's something that that's always the big question is, do you change something that's been very successful for the sake of change, or do you change something that needs to be changed because it wasn't successful this year, or do you change something because it just needs to be changed? And so there's a combination probably of all that as we move forward. And I think the most important thing is that we identify problems, and I've said this in there before, we identify what the problem is, we focus on the solution, we solve the problem. And that's what we've always done. And I've really taken to be honest with you, I've taken the approach that, hey, I'm a new coach coming in here, I'm going to fix the things that other guy did last year. And that's how I'm going to take the approach. So I'm going to take the approach that we're going to get this fixed. And this will be fixed. We have good young players. We have good football players on this football team. We've got people that we can identify as playmakers on this team. We just got to grow. So there's, growth took place last year, and it'll continue to take place.
Mark, I know you said on your end you're not planning any changes coaching-wise, but I know Mark interviewed at Northern before pulling out. Is there potential that other guys could look for promotions? I know you don't hold them back from that. Is that still something down the road that could happen?
I mean, it always could happen. I think this is the time of year it happens, and then certainly there's always going to be movement in early February. It seems like that. But so there's nothing's, nobody's. I don't know those things. I never do.
Mark, when you look back on August, say if you've been able to say, boy, I should have seen that now, or the things that you go that was more in plain sight that could have been prevented.
Yeah, you look at things in August and you always wonder because you're asking yourself tough questions in retrospect, but there's always things like that. But I think those are things that are more internal, and I think sometimes when you talk about those things, you're throwing people under the bus a little bit. So I'd rather not talk about those. Every football team has its strengths and its weaknesses. And if you look at last year's football team, players make plays. Connor Cook leaving was a 3-year quarterback that had a lot of wins, a lot of touchdown passes, a lot of productivity. When you look at our defensive front, 3 guys drafted, I believe. 3 guys drafted, 2 of them currently playing, actively playing from the defensive line. You got Aaron Burbage playing with, you got guys, we lost guys, the wide receiver of the year, the quarterback of the year, various players. And, that takes its toll on you when you replace guys. There's always going to be a learning curve, especially if they're younger players, especially if they have not played as much. Even though they may be older players, there's still an experience level that you have to be able to get to. And to get to that level, you have to play football games. So that's the nature of it. Experience allows for, I think, greater success. It's one thing to be able to do it on the practice field. It's another thing to be able to do it in the game when the stakes are much higher. And that's at every single position.
Mark got two for you. I'll do it separately. First, can you give any update to Brian Lewerke, how he's going through his rehab?
Yeah, he's out of the boot, so he's walking and will progress from there. Probably come back, here after break and be able to be moving some, rehabbing.
And then second of all, the three biggest kind of regressions under you have all been during these quarterback transitions or after them. Is that part of your evaluation, is how you go through those transitions and any change you can make?
Yeah, I think it's not so much sometimes who, it's the amount of experience that they have. And if you really look at those transition areas, how much experience did Kirk Cousins and Keith Nickel have, and there was a quarterback situation there in 2009 after Brian Hoyer left. Again in 2012, how much game experience did Andrew Maxwell have, and then he's thrust in there. And this is a high-stakes game. There's high competition. So how much did he have? Even Connor Cook, how much did he have at that time? 2013 sort of took off, but we had some quarterback challenges in that year, and then this year, you had two quarterbacks, Damian and Tyler O'Connor. And really, Damian Terry was never healthy throughout the entire August. So he really couldn't participate very well in camp. He had a minor knee surgery. So he was rehabbing back from that. Just a lot of things. Ed Davis, had a knee surgery in May. So he was rehabbing back from that. So he never really got back and never really could get back to what his former self was at that point in time. He was a phenomenal football player. So you got a lot of different things going on, but yeah, quarterbacks that's obviously a key to every football team, and you got to be productive at that position. You have to lead to production, and productivity is points scored when you're a quarterback. It's points scored, and there are a lot of good things that happened and occurred, but we didn't score as many points as we needed to be scoring to win a football game. So it all goes hand in hand, but it's all comprehensive. There's a cumulative effect on everything, all inclusive, I guess. Whether it's you calling the right play, whether it's you're executing the right play, whether it's a drop pass, whether it's a missed sack, whether it's a given up sack because you have a young redshirt freshman playing tackle, or something of that case. So you don't have pressure. You get pressure. You get moved off the dime, as I would call it, as a quarterback. There's a lot of things that go into this. As to whether a guy is productive or what's going on, but quarterbacks obviously are a big part of everything, and that's not to lay everything at our quarterback position. But all you got to say is we played three quarterbacks this year. What would you expect? And all three of them were injury related. All three of them injury related in the end. Somebody got knocked out here, knocked out there. So that's not occurred since we've been here.
Mark, kind of along the lines of Brian, did you have any other?
We got to get to going positive here.
Well,
go ahead, though. Ask another negative question.
The first part of this of two is the injury update. Kind of, are any of the other guys like Viante, Higbee, how are they progressing from their broken bones?
Everybody's progressing. Everybody's progressing moving forward.
Would you imagine they'd be back for spring workouts when you get to that point?
I would imagine so, yeah.
And secondly, we kind of actually what I was going to ask you too is we've talked so much about what went wrong. What things did you see in reevaluations that you liked moving into next year from some of those younger guys that you were forced to play it or played anyways?
Yeah, I think what you see as a group is you see resiliency. Nobody blew us out. Nobody shut it down and quit. we continue to play. So resiliency as an entire football team, and I give credit to our senior group for that, and our captains especially, because they maintain that aspect, and I've said that already. You got great individual performances as you've gone through it and seen different players elevate their play. Young freshmen, you see Donnie Corley making plays, could be a phenomenal player. You see Justin Lane, could be a phenomenal player. So you've got young players. We played 9 true freshmen. That's more than we've ever played. You look out there and you see three true freshmen and a redshirt freshman playing at defensive line. So those guys, again, remember what I said many other times, this muscle memory, 10,000 hours makes you an expert. Playing defensive line is muscle memory. You have to be able to play at that level, at this level, and it takes time. It's very difficult for a freshman to play and be in the right gap based on blocking schemes or transition from run to pass, when you're young. It just is. But I think you saw Mike Panasuk grow immensely over the course of the year. I think you saw us be actually a better pass rush team probably at the end of the year as we continue to gain experience. So there's a lot of things there, a lot of positives. So young offensive linemen playing.
Spinning it forward, you've talked about this introspection you've had. What have you discovered in the 2-3 weeks that you know you want to implement, be it scheme, be it things you've seen the reaction from players and workouts, and are they already conditioning like they would in February right now?
Well, right now for the last 2 weeks we've been heavy in recruiting, so we've been out. So it's really just this week we've really just come back, and we're still heavily in recruiting, trying to make up ground in terms of just not recruiting the guys we are on, but actively looking for other players and going deep, trying to find different situations. We need to come back and find another additional lineman. We were hit with defensive linemen last year with 4 guys leaving due to graduation, and then we lost 4 other guys. So you lose 8 guys. Again, you look back at our quarterback situation, and you lose 8 defensive linemen. What do you expect? You got a great group of young freshman offensive linemen coming in, but they're freshman defensive linemen. I think I said defensive linemen. But so you've got, Malik struggled with injuries all season long. Coop had injuries as well. So you got 10 guys that, were not probably playing at their fullest. 8 of them weren't there, and so it's difficult. And so you got to be able to maintain that excellence that we've had there. So there's a lot of positions that are like that. But right now our focus is on recruiting, continuing to find defensive linemen, continuing to find long outside backers or linebackers. Every position. We're going to try and take the best players available, and we still have numbers that we can use. So we'll continue to do that. We have 17 committed guys. So it's a very solid class, but it'll be a big class as well. So it's very competitive right now in terms of who's going to fill those slots, but we have numbers to be able to focus on that. So I think the questions asked about scheme and et cetera, we're focusing on those things, but right now personnel, et cetera, and then we'll continue to push through to different areas of what we're doing. Today we're working a little bit more scheme, hit tapes of our guys. In other words, self-scout tapes of a particular individual, whether he played all year or whether he didn't play all year, and evaluating that specific player in terms of what he's done here. But everything's up on the table.
Coach Messiah DeWeaver, how much were you able, to evaluate him this year with him not being able to play in games, and how to, do you have a sense of how much he might be a factor in next year's quarterback?
When Brian Lewerke went down, Messiah was thrust into, number three quarterback position, and actually, when Damian Terry was out, we actually had 2 quarterbacks. And Messiah got a lot of the 2 reps. So he grew immensely in terms of coming off our scout team, being the quarterback there, to getting active reps with our 2s. He showed some promising things, but he also showed some things that lends to him being a freshman and being not in the mix for 6-7 weeks. But I think there was growth there. He's got a live arm. He's a big guy, And, but there's other things he's got to work on as he continues to improve. He's got good mobility, and we'll see how he shows in the spring. I do think Brian Lewerke did some great things this season. Probably would have been our guy through the last 4 games, and I think he's done enough to warrant for him to be the guy to beat out. He's the guy. So I say that in retrospect to Damian. Damian's been in and out with injuries, and he played well in the Penn State game, but he's got to maintain his health. Good, guys. Thank you.